on sustainable development and green energy, I have to talk on grid connected inverter for solar PV systems. I will first start with what is solar PV systems. I will give you a brief review what is meant by a solar PV systems, what is various components, and then I will talk about in detail the inverter, which we can say heart of the system. So in this section, we shall review the major components of connected solar PV system, then classification of inverters used in solar PV systems, then functions of a grid connected inverter. Mainly, I will talk about maximum power point tracking and anti-aliasing feature. Then some testing of grid connected inverter. So these things we shall try to cover in this presentation. So major components grid connected solar PV system, you all know. The major thing is solar PV. The PV array may be or it may be roof mounted. Usually for small systems, it is roof mounted, and for large system, it is mounted. So PV array is basically a series and parallel combination of different PV modules. So they are connected in series to enhance the voltage rating and in parallel to enhance the current rating of the system. So first thing of the solar PV system is PV array. Second most important thing is the inverter, and that I say it is the heart of the system. Converts the DC power generated by PV array to AC and synchronize it with the grid. So that's a lot of functions. We shall talk about it later. Then energy meters, that may be bidirectional meters or unidirectional meters. Sometimes we have to record both flow of power energy in both directions. We have to go for net metering. Then you have to use a meter that can record energy flow in both the directions, positive and negative directions. That is from PV to grid or from grid to PV, or you can say to the load. Then isolators and circuit breakers, and it will also consist of a transformer. For small PV systems, it is not required, but for larger PV systems, or say more than 50 kilowatt, transformer is needed. Then we must data logger or SCADA system that records all the parameters of the solar PV system, how much energy is generated, what are the installation, and etc. So these things are recorded and for analysis and other works. So a simple picture gives a layout of the small PV rooftop system. You can see on the top of the roof, there are 4 modules. 4 PV modules are there, and 2 connected in series. That is module number 1 and 2. 2 modules are connected in series, and 3rd and 4th modules are again connected in series. So there are actually 2 connections coming out. One modules and other from other sets of PV modules. So these are coming to the junction box, or we call it combiner box, where these series connected PV modules are connected in parallel. The output we get one cable, and this cable connects it to the inverter, some isolator. So this inverter, which is shown here, a grid connected inverter. So this converts the DC power from the PV array into AC, and this AC then goes to the main switch of the supply. So here you may have some other things also, but they are not shown, and then there is some energy meter. So this main switch or the panel here, the switchboard here, receives 2 supplies. One from the that is from the PV array, and other from the grid. So it is dual supply. Okay. So these are the main features. So this were a large system of more than 50 kilowatts. In that case, you would have some transformer here. For small systems, the supply is a single phase AC. It is single phase supply. It were a larger system, say more than 5 kilowatt, then be a three-phase supply. So accordingly, the inverter will be three-phase inverter or a single-phase inverter. So this is a basic layout of a, and of the other components are there, which I will not discuss in detail. The DC cable is there, AC cables are there, circuit breakers are there. So these things are other than this. So main things. Now, how to classify PV systems? PV systems be classified on the basis of mounting of the solar PV array or rooftop system. If all the arrays are uh, situated on the ground, mounted on the ground, which is usually for a large system, we call it non-mounted system. And if the panels are or modules are on the top of a roof, we call a rooftop system. Even if it the ground in a small locality or near some house, it will also be classified as rooftop system. Not suitable for, because the city or urban areas, shadow-free areas are not available. So this requires large ground, no building nearby, so that shadows don't come on the PV array. And moreover, the land which is required for installation of PV system is very large, and this will not be available usually in urban areas. And if available, it will be very costly. So this is only suitable for large scale generation of some 20 kilowatt, 50 kilowatts, megawatt, 2 megawatt, 3 megawatt, like that. For that, we go for ground mounted system. So this is this one picture you can see. It is the picture of the ground mounted FPV array of the 3 megawatt plant at Aligarh Muslim University. Comes up, then this will be a problem for this plant. Then the second is rooftop PV system. PV system advantage is that land is not required. Available space on the roof of residential building or some college, university, or commercial buildings can be utilized. And this space was lying vacant and was having no purpose. Now it can be used to install the PV array, and the energy generated can be used by the building itself, or it can be fed to the grid. So that will reduce the person who installed this rooftop system. Now it classified on the basis of connection, how it is connected. In that way, it can be classified as off-grid system, or it can be a grid connected system. Off-grid system, you may also call it standalone system. Energy generated is consumed within the building either by DC loads or by AC load through standalone inverter. So this can be used only for small installations, you can say, but only for those localities it is preferred where grid is not available or is very rare. So in that case, it can be used, and it can also be used in remote areas for example, water pumping applications. supply is not available, we can install some PV panels that is directly connected to some DC motor, permanent magnet DC runs the pumps, and that can use for irrigation purpose. So this was one of the earlier application of this off-grid system. In some villages where supply is not available, people can use it for their daily needs. But if they want a continuous supply, then battery backup is necessary. So if battery is, then we can night and during the off sunshine hours also, but it will enhance the cost and it will require more maintenance. So basic beauty of this off-grid the PV system is lost because it now requires more maintenance. On the other hand, the grid connected system we use now. So this DC power converted into AC using a grid connected inverter and is consumed within the building, or it may be exported to the grid. So these are basically two types of systems, and based on that, there are two types of inverter that are used for PV systems. One you may call it standalone inverter, other you may call as grid connected inverter. Standalone inverter is, you can say, it is similar to inverter that we use in our houses. There's not much difference. Here, what happens is that you have some PV array, and this PV array charges the battery through some charge controller. And if some DC loads are there, it can supply the DC load. And the battery is connected to the inverter as a usual inverter, and this converts this DC into AC, and it is supplied to the AC load. So this inverter is very simple inverter. Just it has to receive a voltage here, a DC voltage like from a battery, and then it converts into AC of voltage and fixed frequency. This is a simple circuit, and this charge controller, usually it contains maximum power point tracker and voltage regulator. Inverter doesn't contain the maximum power point tracker. So this is simple inverter that we are familiar with. Inverter has it has more functions than the. I listed the main functions being performed by the grid connected inverter. The first one is the maximum power point tracking. That is, it has to extract suitable current from PV array so that it operates at its maximum power point. That is, the maximum power available in the array is utilized. So this was the first function. I will talk about this in detail in the coming slides. Power into sine wave AC power with GHG less than 5% as per Central Electricity Authority of India draft regulations. Actually, this is the main difference. In the normal inverter, there is no hard the GHG of the output, because the output power which is coming out from the inverter is consumed locally within the house. In the grid connected inverter, it is feeding power to the grid. So the power quality of the grid has to be maintained. Start feeding poor quality power into the grid, the quality of the grid supply will become poor. So that is the strict requirement that GHG should be less than 5%. So it has to produce a very good quality AC supply that can be fed to the grid without worsening the power quality of the grid. So this is the main thing. It has to synchronize the generated AC voltage with supply voltage. It means you all know that is voltage should match the grid voltage. The frequency, the grid frequency, the phase frequency should be similar. So these things are required for connecting the array in the grid. One more important, this connects from the grid in case of power failure, or if the grid goes outside preset inverter parameters. So, function of this inverter is as well as to protect itself. For example, if the grid is disconnected or the supply is disconnected due to some reason, maybe due to some maintenance work, but from this side, from the PV array side, the line is energized. So it for the persons working on the line. So it is necessary that as soon as grid is disconnected, supply is disconnected, the PV array or the PV system of power plant should be isolated from the grid. Feature, so which has to be there in the grid connected inverter. And number two, because now it is connected with the grid supply or the supply from the utility, the voltage or frequency will fluctuate. So if the voltage becomes very high, then the inverter itself may get some fault. So it has to isolate it from the grid in the case of a normal situation. The voltage is very high, voltage is very low, or voltage is not available. In all the cases, this inverter should disconnect itself, the array from the grid. So this is one feature that is unique for this grid connected inverter. Discuss this main point checking in slide detail. The IV the EV array is shown here. This usually the other power supplies are either voltage source or constant current source. Both of the supply are constant voltage source. But this supply that is coming from the PV system is neither a constant voltage supply nor a constant current supply. You can see from this diagram that during range, this behaves as a voltage source, and in some range, it is behaving as a constant current source. Having various points of this characteristics, this point where voltage is zero, current is there. This point is called short circuit point. This current, or you can say that the maximum current that the PV module can deliver. So this is short circuit point, and when the current is zero, the voltage is equal to the open circuit voltage. So this point is called as open circuit. So at short circuit point, as the voltage is zero, product of voltage and current is zero, power is zero. Similarly, at the open circuit point, current is zero, although voltage is present, the power is zero. So in both cases, power is equal to zero. Suppose we start loading the PV array from open circuit condition. You can see that the current rises. The voltage remains practically constant. It reduces slightly as in other voltage sources. For example, a battery. If you load the battery, increase the load, the current will increase, but the voltage will also decrease slightly. So it is behaving as a normal DC voltage source. After certain loading, you can see that now the curve starts bending. So now the current doesn't rise in same proportion, but the voltage continues to decrease. After a certain point, current becomes constant. Current does not increase anymore, even if you increase the load, that is, you decrease the load resistance connected across the array. So as the current remains constant, and of course that depends on the number of electron hole pair generated because due to photons received by the array. So that is the maximum capability, your saturation point, you can say. the current remains constant and the voltage goes on decreasing. This means that power will start decreasing. So you can see that power curve is also shown here by dotted lines. So the power is maximum at this point. The point at which the power becomes maximum, we call it a maximum power point. So if we operate the PV module such that operating point is MPP, then we are able to generate the maximum power that is available from the PV module, that is this much power. Any deviation from this maximum power point will cause reduction in the available power from the module. If you operate it here, the power will be this much. Operate it here, power will be this much. So the power will decrease. So if you operate at any other point, this means that you are not utilizing the full capacity of the PV module. So you can say that your energy or your money invested in the purchasing the module is being wasted. So we shall try to operate the PV array at the maximum power point always. But and you can see that the array characteristics or the module characteristics are not same at all the weather conditions. So here at 1000 watt per meter square, 750 watt per meter square, and 500 watt per meter square. You can see that the short circuit current decreases, and so does the power available from the PV module. So it depends on the weather condition also. Similarly, if the temperature varies, then also the power available decreases, but changes, but it is the change is on the side. Major change is from the insulation. So now let us see what is the maximum power point tracker and what is the function of maximum power point. Suppose we have this characteristics for 1 kilowatt per meter square insulation. This is the characteristics. This is the maximum power point in A and insulation A. So here we use proper resistance RA so that the load line intersects the IV characteristics at the point MPPA. That will generate the maximum power from the PV array. So once we have fixed the resistance, according to the available power, the maximum power point is achieved. But now insulation changes from 1 kilowatt to 0.5 kilowatt per meter square. Now, with the same resistance RA, operating point is now OPB. The load line intersects the IV characteristics at the point OPB. This point is not the maximum power point. So, and maximum power point for this insulation condition is this much. This means that we have to change the resistance of the load so that operating point is equal to maximum power point. That is, in this case, increase the resistance from RA to RB so that the current decreases and we reach the maximum power point MPP. Then it will start generating the maximum power available at this particular insulation. So this means that we have to, and this insulation condition and temperature condition will keep changing throughout the day and across the seasons. So this cannot be done manually, and you have to change the effective resistance of the load, or in simple words, you can say that you have to adjust the current drawn from the PV array so that the current is equal to maximum power point current and voltage is equal to maximum power point voltage. The voltage corresponds to the maximum power point, we call it maximum power point voltage, and the current we call it maximum power point current. So we have to adjust the current drawn from the PV array always in all the insulation condition equal to the maximum power point current at that particular insulation or ambient condition. So how it can be done? It is done by simply interfacing some electronic circuit, interfacing it between PV array and the load. So basically, this consists of a DC-DC converter, which whose D2 ratio is varied to meet this requirement. For example, you have this buck converter or boost converter, and the control signals for its electronic devices comes from electronic circuit, some microcontroller, something like that. It has to generate some signal for required duty ratio so that the current is equal to the maximum power point current. So of course this will require some signals and it will be done in closed loop. So one signal here should be corresponding to the maximum power point current at that particular insulation. The other signal should be from the actual current. If there is a mismatch between these two, the duty ratio will be altered till the actual current becomes equal to the maximum power point current at that particular time. There may be various ways of achieving this. There are various algorithms that are used for maximum power point cycle. For example, pattern observation method. We have constant voltage method, constant current method, incremental conductance method. Then more fuzzy logic based methods are there. So many methods are there, but the purpose is always same. That is to extract such a current from the PV array so that the PV array operates at its maximum power point. This is the basic purpose of the maximum power point tracker. So this should be inbuilt inside the grid connected inverter. So now let us see how we can classify the grid connected inverter. You can classify it in two ways, based on use of transformer, based on interface with the SPV rooftop or SPV array. Based on transformer, it can be isolated inverter or it can be non-isolated inverter depending on whether transformer is used or not used. If transformer is used, there is electrical isolation between PV array and the grid. We will call it as isolated inverter. And if it is directly connected, then it will be called a non-isolated inverter. Similarly, for based on the interface with the SPV array, you can classify it as microinverter, string inverter, multi-string inverter, and central inverter. So I will discuss it in more detail. So isolated inverter, where there is at least simple separation between the input and output circuit. That is, we are using a two-winding transformer. So it will be called isolated inverter. And if it is directly connected, transformer is not used, we shall call it non-isolated inverter. Now, classification of inverter on the basis of interface with the grid. We can have microinverter. One thing I again want to emphasize that I will go back to the slide of the PV array characteristics. This is the characteristic of say one module, and this module has its maximum power point. Now, to make an array, we connect various modules in series and in parallel. This changes the characteristics. So if we add two modules in series, in that case the voltage rating will be enhanced and it will look like this. So it will go like this and voltage will be increased like that. So similarly, if we increase the number of parallel strings, the current will increase. So the characteristics of the array will be identical, but it will be having different magnitudes. And each module at its own maximum power point. It may be possible that the different modules have slightly different characteristics and they have different maximum power points. When we make an array, then we can only fix one current and one voltage for that. So current drawn from all the arrays, all the modules will be same. For example, if a series connected modules are there, and we track the maximum power point of that array, then current of all the modules connected in series will be identical. Although the different modules of the series string may have different maximum power point currents. It means that one module will be working at the maximum power point, but the other will not be working at the maximum power point. So there is a loss of power due to this, loss of energy due to this. If we were able to operate all the modules at their maximum power point, then the power would have been maximized. In the case of series connected strings, some modules will be operating at the maximum power points, whereas the others will not be operating at the maximum power point. This difficulty can be overcome if we are using what is known as microinverter. You can see here, micro means small inverter used for each and every module. Each module will have different separate inverter, small inverter, micro inverter. So, of course, this inverter will attain the maximum power point tracker. So, it will operate this module at its maximum power point and convert it into AC. Second module will also be operated at the maximum power point, converted into AC. So in that way, we can operate all the modules separately at its maximum power points. Module rating may also be slightly different. So at the output, these are connected in parallel and it is fed to the grid. So this is what is known as microinverter. But the problem is that the cost is very high. Of course, it is a small inverter, so its power rating may be 100 to 350 watts. That is the rating of the PV module, and output will be input will be 20 to 40 volts, and output will be simple 230-volt AC supply, single phase. But here, the main thing is that the cost will be high as compared to a string inverter. The extra energy that we are saving, that we are producing because of this arrangement, the cost of that energy should be more than the cost of extra cost that we are incurring in this inverter. So at present, we can say that the cost of microinverters is high and it is not financially or commercially viable. So it is, but later on, after a few years, it may be possible that cost of inverter goes down and the saving that we achieve will become higher and then it will become commercially viable. So it may be a future sort of thing, but it is this concept is there and it is being researched on. So this is the main thing, that all the modules will be operating at its maximum power point. Now, the second thing is that the string inverter connection is such that the different modules are connected in series and then in parallel, and one string comes in and we have the inverter there that receives the single input here, and of course the maximum power point tracker which is here will operate the PV array at its maximum power point. So of course all the different modules may not be operating at their maximum power point. So this is what is known as string inverter. One inverter, different series strings are connected to the combiner box. From there, one string comes out and which is fed to the string inverter. This inverter rating may be from 1 kilowatt to 30 kilowatt, or input may be 150 to 350 volt DC. So these are range of ratings of various string inverters, and output may be 230 volt AC in the case of smaller systems, and if it is a single phase inverter, or it will be 415 volt AC in the case of three phase inverter. So it can be single phase or it can be three phase. It is economical as compared to string inverter, but it is still costlier than the central inverter, that big inverter that we use for bigger power plants. So if we have a big huge power plants, we have options of using one big inverter or different small string inverters. So if you are using different small string inverter, that will be costlier affair as compared to using a one big inverter. Similarly, multi-string inverter is same as a string inverter, except that it has more than one inputs. Same case we can see in the earlier case, two strings were connected in parallel to form one string that is fed to the single inverter. A slight improvement over this is we feed separate strings to the inverter, which this can receive two different strings, and two different MPPTs are inside the inverter. So these two strings separately will operate at their maximum power point. So you can say that energy yield in this case will be higher than the energy yield in the previous case, because in the previous case some modules might be operating at far from the maximum power point. In this case, the power rating may vary from 5 kilowatt to 30 kilowatt, and the input may be 150 to 450 volt DC. Output again 230 volt AC for single phase, or 415 volt AC for phase. And of course, it is higher in cost as compared to string inverter. More MPPTs are involved, complex circuits are there, so it will be costly as compared to string inverter. Now, this is what is known as central inverter. A huge number of modules are connected in series and parallel to form one big power system, and then it is fed to the central inverter. The ratings of course, this will be used for huge power plants that are used for commercial purpose to generate huge amount of energy and supply to the grid. So this may range from 30 kilowatt to 1 megawatt range. Input may be 300 to 800 volt DC. If you say 20 volt, maybe the rating of one module, you can see that there are say at least 15 series connected modules will be there to achieve 300 volt DC. So large number of modules are connected in series to achieve this 100 volt or 800 volt DC. Output will be 400 volt AC that can be fed to the grid. So this is having lower cost as compared to string inverter. So in huge power plants, this is used. For example, in our 3 megawatt solar power plant at AMU, which is 3 megawatt plant. So maximum rating of these inverters is 1 megawatt. So we are having three sets of inverters. You can see, and you can just imagine the size of these inverters. So this is 1 megawatt inverter. There are three sets for three different strings. Now, I would like to discuss here is the grid protection or anti-islanding. Disconnected. They are confused that actually the in earlier days power supply from the grid. So grid should be well maintained. It should have a good quality.
Please wait for some internet issue is there. So the speaker is trying to fix it. Please wait for 2 minutes.
Sir, my voice is audible? Abu Tariq, sir? Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Yes, yes. Am I audible? आवाज
Sir.
मेरी आवाज आ रही है? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. It's coming.
Okay. Okay. मेरी आवाज के ऊपर my voice. Yeah. Hello.
Sir, you can start with your
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your voice is coming.
हाँ बस ये इको हो रही है आवाज मेरी ऐसा there's some problem here. I'm trying to reconnect. I anti-eye landing feature, and once the grid goes off within 2 seconds, it will disconnect. And this is as per IEEE 41547 and CEA regulations 2013. And once the grid is restored, then just after grid is restored, there will be a lot of fluctuation in supply, and the supply should be you can say balanced and levels so that we can connect the inverter again. So for that, we should have at least 60 seconds before the supply can be again connected. So some inverters may have higher ratings, but at least 60 seconds should be there so that supply stabilizes and we connect the PV array to the grid. So this is a so important feature that it has to be tested whenever we go for commissioning. We have to see that this feature is available there or not. It is functioning properly or not. For that, some tests will be done at the site before the commissioning. So this will be done not only for grid supply is disrupted, also when the grid goes outside the preset inverter parameters. That is within this range, say 20% of the voltage, of the rated voltage. If the voltage goes beyond that, the inverter should disconnect the array and isolate itself from the grid. So that is why uh, these days emphasis is there to have a good quality power supply. Transformers are being installed everywhere so that supply is maintained, good voltage and good frequency is maintained so that the PV arrays can be installed wherever we want. So supply should also be continuous, that for the time period the supply is not available, no power is generated from the from the PV array, and that money is wasted. So for this, we have to go for a test that is known as unintentional islanding functionality test. So test 1, that is, we have to see inverter must cease supply power within 2 seconds of loss of mains. So that has to be tested. For that, we have to deliberately disconnect the supply and see what happens. So what we shall do, we shall keep DC supply from SPV rooftop array or SPV array connected to the inverter. That is, from the PV array side, the cables are coming to the DC combiner box, and from there through isolator, it is going to the inverter. So we shall keep that isolator connected. So the DC supply is connected to the inverter. So on the DC side, it is connected. Okay, and we have to check whether this anti-aliasing function is operating or not. Then what we have to do, we have to place the voltage probe in the inverter side of the AC mains. AC mains, there are two sides. The output of the inverter, basically on the main panel or the power supply, we are getting two supplies, one from the inverter, other from the grid. So we have to place the voltage probe in the inverter side of the AC mains, supply coming out from the inverter, that we have to check. So voltage probe is connected there, and main switch that is coming to the electricity board panel is disconnected. Supply coming from the grid is disconnected from the main switch. So now supply is disconnected manually, and we have to check whether what time the inverter takes to export the power to the grid. So it should be less than 2 seconds. The voltage output should reduce to 0 within 2 seconds. So again, what we shall do, we shall connect the DC supply from the PV array to the inverter, and we shall place the voltage probe across the output of the inverter, and then we shall disconnect the grid supply manually using the main switch, and we have to check the time after which the voltage becomes equal to 0. So this should be within 2 seconds. So if this is there, then we can say that this function is working properly. Second thing that we have to check is unintentional islanding functionality test. That is, inverter must not resume supplying power until mains have been present for more than 60 seconds. Minimum 60 seconds, or even more than 60 seconds will be required to reconnect the grid with the supply. For this, what we have to do, again, we shall keep the DC supply from the SPV array connected to the inverter. So power is coming from the array to the inverter, and we shall place the current probe in the inverter side of the AC mains. Output of the inverter, across that we shall connect a current probe that measures the current. Now turn on the main switch. Before that, supply was disconnected. Grid is not available. So main switch was off. So output current is also 0. Now we shall turn on the main switch. That is, grid is connected to the circuit board there, electricity panel. Then we shall measure the time taken for the inverter to re-energize and start exporting the power. That is, current probe should indicate the current. So this time before which the current starts increasing, this should be more than 60 seconds. So this is the second testing that is required for the inverter. So these two functions of the inverter has to be tested. Other things that is the THD, and these are inbuilt and it is always there. But before commissioning, these two things should be tested. One more thing that we must know about inverter, that what is the efficiency of the grid connected inverter. You can see here there are three graphs, three possible cases, three different possible cases. One is for high efficiency inverter, other is for the medium efficiency inverter, and the third is low efficiency inverter. So you may have different types of inverter. Some may be having an efficiency as good as say about 97 or 98%. Others may have efficiency around 90 or 90, 92, 93%, and minimum we shall have efficiency of about 85%. But efficiency of the inverter is not constant. It varies on the load, the power that is flowing through the inverter. But you can see here, if the power output is more than 20% of the capacity, then efficiency is quite good. That is, if it is operated below this level, efficiency drops, becomes very low at very low load. But for sufficiently long, high range, the efficiency is quite high. Say here for after 20%, efficiency is quite good. So this is one thing that we must. So this was all that I wanted to discuss about this inverter. Now, thank you for your patient listening. Now you can have any question or any further discussion from your side. Anybody who wants to participate can now participate, ask questions, or share his knowledge about this grid connected inverter. Thank you. Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your presentation.
Yes.
I now invite questions from the audience. You can unmute your mics and ask questions, or you can just write in your chat box. Sir, am I audible?
Yes. Yes. Not visible. I'm trying to see it.
Sir, the question from my side is that this islanding mode of operation which the inverter is having, uh, is it possible every time that your inverter works in islanded mode, or usually it is in grid connected mode?
In islanding mode, only when the supply is not there, only when the supply is not available, only then it will go into an islanding mode. Supply is not available, and if it is connected, then you can say it is a separate island. Actually, we are having a distributed generation system, so we should always be the part of the whole system. It should not be isolated. It should not be a separate entity. In this case, that is, everything is off, but we are producing power. This we cannot do. So that is the meaning of islanding. So islanding should not be there. Whenever power supply goes, everything should be shut down. All the inverters connect, all the PV arrays connected to that particular grid should be disconnected immediately after the supply goes off. So this is essential and that has to be ensured. Otherwise, there will be a lot of problems because line is energized from one side and other side it is not energized. So there will be a lot of problems. Safety hazards will be there.
So usually, sir, this system, the grid connected system is not having any storage. I think it is because of cost, because this is directly line connected. We don't have any storage associated with it.
That is also the thing. The most important thing is the safety. Most important thing is safety because when the line is energized, people know that there is no power. Somebody is working. For example, there is some maintenance work is going on. Shutdown has been taking place from the power station, but my system is connected to the grid, so that may cause accidents. And it is not possible. For example, if you assume the situation that a large number of houses are having their solar PV rooftop arrays, and each is connected to the grid, and it is not possible to manually go to everywhere and disconnect the supply. And even if you disconnect, somebody again comes in and starts connecting the supply, so that may be the safety hazard for the persons working on the line, maintenance work. So that should never be allowed for safety reasons. This is what I think.
Okay. Any other question from any other participant who would like to ask? Sir, do you see these grid connected inverters now becoming a possibility where the consumer in his house is installing this grid connected and connecting it directly? Because or in houses it will be standalone.
No, it is very great connected. In houses also, the government is, you can say, promoting this for
Yes.
every household to connect use the solar PV array, because that not only that will actually relieve the utility companies from supplying the power. So power availability will become high if people start generating their own power. So that becomes very good thing, and many times the power which is generated from the houses can be used by other people. So that will actually, the house is there, but no load is there. The house is locked, or you can say college is closed, university is closed, industry is closed, but generation will go on, and it will relieve the power supplies companies to supply the power. They will reduce their burdens. So that is why government is promoting it in a big way.
Sir, I think this for ground mounted plants is a big issue in cities still as compared to the rooftop plants because land is you can say costly. It's a costly in cities especially.
That is why land is not available. Even if land is available, around the land there may be high-rise buildings, so shadow-free area will not be available. So of course we have to use it only on rooftops. Otherwise, it will not work. If you install some power plant on some ground, and the life of the power plant is say 25 years, nobody can guarantee that in the next 25 years no building will come up nearby.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so that is the important thing, that it has to be at the rooftop, and it should be ensured that nearby no high-rise buildings are there, so that shadow doesn't come on the PV area. Once shadow comes, then the power plant is useless.
Yes, sir. Somewhere I was also reading that new MPPT techniques, which are now developed on optimization and partial shading cases, are also coming up.
Yes.
That will also be required. Advanced MPPT techniques will be required
Yes.
in future also.
Yes.
because the conventional techniques have their own problems of stucking in the local minima and not reaching the max
Yes, yes, yes.
partial shading case.
Of course,
Uh,
of course.
yes.
In the case of partial shading, the normal algorithms fails because we have multiple peaks. The curve that I have shown in my presentation had only
Yes.
one peak, but in the case of partial shading, multiple peaks are there. Then the algorithm should search for the global maxima. So the algorithm should be like that you can take care of this partial shading.
Okay, sir. I thank you very much for this very, very good presentation. As always, not the first time. As your student, I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope all the participants have also enjoyed. Actually, sir, the topic is so wide and interesting that it can be talked on for hours. But there is time constraint every time, and joined this program. So, as you have already conveyed your wishes to them, and I again thank you for joining this session. And the participants can also contact through email to the sir if they have any further questions. Obviously, the recording will be made available to them. Uh, we are extremely uh, uh, happy that you have all cooperated. There are some internet glitches, but that is not in our hand. Sometimes it happens. So, but in recording, you will not find this because I have edited that part, which is not there. So, thank you, sir. I
Okay.
think we can exit now.
I can.
And
I also thank again the participant for patient listening.
okay, okay, thank you, sir. I am ending this.
Okay.